Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Derwin, and I want just to welcome you all to this, which is the second day of our Global Irish Civic Forum. We really hope that you enjoyed our sessions here yesterday. We found them very stimulating, and the engagement was great. And I hope you enjoyed the reception yesterday evening. I know that some of the people I spoke to were heading out afterwards to experience Dublin nightlife, and I think we may have lost a few of them this morning, but I want to commend and thank you all for coming here for an early start. We've a very busy day ahead, a very interesting and stimulating sessions lined up, so I really hope you enjoy them. The first session this morning, it's all about innovation in terms of our service delivery. And I think, as the Minister said yesterday, we're fully committed to providing the best possible service to all our citizens here in Ireland and the Irish overseas. So we constantly review our services and we adapt them to meet real changing needs. And this is why our discussions here over these 2 days, they're so important to us, because they provide really valuable insights. Because you, as the kind of frontline people in terms of service provision to Irish communities globally, you bring back your feedback in terms of the changing needs and the evolving needs of your communities. And this allows us to adapt our services accordingly. Ireland is often described as a global island, and it's really no exaggeration. The sheer scale of the Irish diaspora and the diversity relative to the size of our population at home is remarkable. And we have a global reach that's the envy of many other countries. This incredible global reach and the diversity of our communities abroad means that we've always had to innovate when it comes to our engagement with our diaspora communities. So just looking back, it was back in 1984 when the Dion Committee was first established, and it was established in order to make recommendations on the provision of financial assistance towards the employment of professional services to meet the welfare needs of Irish people living in Britain. So our services evolved, and some 20 years later, the Irish Abroad Unit was then established. And since that time, the Emigrant Support Programme, which we talked about a lot about yesterday, it has assisted more than 534 organisations in 36 different countries, and we've dispensed grants amounting to just under 150 million. So that just gives you some idea of the scale of the operation. A further innovation in July 2014 was the establishment of the Office of the Minister of State for the Diaspora, and that's a role that's proudly held today by Minister Joe McHugh, who you met yesterday. Ireland's diaspora policy, the Global Irish, that was published in March of 2015, and the first Global Irish Civic Forum was held here 2 years ago in 2015. So this brings us to today, and today's event, we hope, represents an invaluable opportunity for your organisations to meet, to network, to talk, and to compare notes with each other, and also to bring key issues facing your communities to our attention and to discuss those key issues here this morning. The world we live in and the patterns of migration are changing so rapidly, and we know that as a department, we have to continue to adapt to meet new and emerging needs of Irish citizens and Irish communities. We have recently reorganised our internal structures, and we've created a new division which is called Global Irish Services. And in fact, it combines now our passport and our consular services along with the Irish Abroad Unit. And what we're trying to do, we're going to create, it's now the largest division here in headquarters. Currently we have over 600 staff. We have a number of temporary staff for the busy summer period in the passport office. But it's a large division, and what we're hoping to do is to provide a fully integrated and streamlined service to our citizens at home and abroad. Yesterday, you met with Katrina Inglesby from the Irish Abroad Division, and Katrina and her team have done great work. I just want to commend them in terms of organising these few days. They've really put an awful lot of work into it, and also there's been a number of volunteers from across the department who've assisted, and I just want to acknowledge all their hard work and support. Today I'm joined from colleagues from two other parts of the division. So we have Pat Bourne, who comes from Consular Division, and Fiona Penollar, who's in our passport office. And we're going to talk to you just a little bit about some of the innovations that we've introduced in recent years. You'll be aware of some of them. And we'll talk a bit more, and hopefully we'll have a discussion and we can take your comments and questions afterwards. So in terms of, excuse me, my voice is going. The first person up this morning is Pat Bourne, and Pat is the director of our consular services. Pat has a long and distinguished history in the department. Some of you will know him from his last posting, which was he was the Consul General in our office in Edinburgh. Many of you will remember him from that time. And prior to that, he served in a number of different posts, including Canberra, Iran, and Iraq. So I Without further ado, I'll introduce you to Pat Bourne. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Great to see a few people at least made the effort to get up and come out on morning 2 of the conference. Pat Bourne is my name, as Anne said. I'm the token man on this morning's panel. It's been a really good conference so far. I was here for most of yesterday, and I thought it was really interesting and stimulating. I learned a lot, including that I'm older than the United Arab Emirates. But a lot of other more useful things as well. But it might be useful to share a little bit with you this morning as well. The consular work of the department is something that people maybe think they know about, but don't necessarily know all about. So I might take a minute or two just to explain a little bit about that. There are really 3 pillars to our work in the consular operation. The first is what we call consular services, and it's probably the least known areas of the work we do, but it's actually the one that has the most resources dedicated to it and has the most interaction with the public. It involves our authentications, legalisation and apostille service, based or headquartered out of our public office in Knockmall House. The Passport Office public office is there, but also our consular public office. And we have about 60,000 transactions, dealings with the public every year to legalise and authenticate apostille documents that people need to work, to live, to do business overseas. Birth certificates, educational certificates, business contracts, and so forth. So it's a very important facilitator and enabler for business overseas and for people-to-people transactions overseas. Also part of our consular services operation is the processing of applications for letters of freedom to get married abroad. So every year we have about 3,000 or 4,000 people who get married overseas. The local authorities in the countries where they're getting married usually require a letter to say that there is no impediment to them getting married, and it's again our service that processes and approves those. And the biggest area of consular services is in the area of citizenship. We deal with applications for citizenship via descent or the grandparent rule, as it's commonly known. And historically, we've processed and approved and issued something in the region of 5,000 to 10,000 applications for foreign birth registration each year. We also have a liaison role in relation to visas and management of the honorary consul network around the world, as well as providing support and backup for those services that are delivered by our missions overseas. The second area of work, probably the better known one, is in terms of consular assistance, and this is where we provide frontline help, mainly through our mission network, but also from Dublin, for Irish citizens who get themselves into distress overseas. And that is certainly a growing area of business. In 2016, we had over 3,000 new cases of consular assistance that we provided overseas. And it's a complex area, usually short-handed by media to the Department of Foreign Affairs is providing consular assistance, but it means an awful lot more, as many of you know from first-hand experience. And the third pillar of our work is in the crisis area, which is really consular assistance writ large, where we have major crises involving multiples or groups of Irish citizens who are in the midst of or caught up in major incidents overseas. And again, that in recent years has been very much a growth area of business. So it's very much along with the Passport Office, a frontline area of service provision to the public. The Passport Service, and I don't want to preempt Fiona, but issues something in the region of 750,000 passports a year, a very significant engagement with the public. But next to that, the consular service, with many thousands of consular assistance queries and cases, many thousands of authentications, citizenship, and all those other areas, is the second largest public engagement area for the department. So it's very much at the heart of the department's commitment to our people in its statement of strategy. But speaking of strategies, I discovered when I took over just more than a year ago that there hadn't been a kind of a strategic rethink or review of our consular operation in many, many years. So I'm embarking at the moment with my team on reviewing that strategy and putting in place a new consular strategy that will be fit for purpose to take us further into the 21st century. Why is this needed? Because the world has changed. Connectivity is so much easier than it used to be. People are travelling abroad so much more than they used to. The risks that they encounter overseas are changing. The world's becoming a more dangerous place, and the nature of the risks are changing. Terrorism is a very real threat not only in places like the Middle East and more exotic and distant places, but in Paris, in London, in European capitals, and in places that were previously considered to be safe. There's increased awareness of our services. The high-profile consular assistance cases and crises that we've seen and managed over the last number of years have given people a much greater sense of the identity of the Department of Foreign Affairs, of the work it does in relation to consular assistance, and people are responding to that by seeking our assistance more and more. Our audience, our client base, our customer base, call it whatever you will, is becoming more diverse. This is, I couldn't help noticing yesterday and again today, it's a predominantly very white audience, a very traditional kind of image of what we think of as Irish people. But in terms of our consular cases now, we're more likely almost to be dealing with people whose surnames come from the Middle East or from Eastern Europe than our traditional Irish surnames. They're from very different backgrounds, they're from different cultures, they're from much more diverse religious background. And that creates new challenges for us. It also leads to an ever-increasing complexity in terms of the cases that we're dealing with, where there are complex international issues involved. There may be child abduction cases, there may be split families, there may be cross-cultural issues and issues involving conflicts and tensions between different legal systems. So the cases are not only becoming larger in terms of volume, but they're becoming much more complex in terms of the actual content and substance of them. So for all of those reasons, it's definitely appropriate and timely to have a consular strategy. But if nothing else were to drive it, then certainly recent international events, and particularly Brexit, would have necessitated it. Many government departments in Ireland and institutions and organisations are looking ahead and thinking of what the impacts of Brexit might be in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. For us, the rubber has already hit the road. In terms of foreign birth registration applications, and I know Fiona will talk about it in terms of passports, we've already seen an upsurge. We've already seen the impact of Brexit. From a traditional annual average of about 6,000 foreign birth registrations applications per year, we expect in 2017 to process 22,000 applications. Most of those represent an increase from the United Kingdom, but there have also been increases from the United States and from other countries around the world, which may at least partly be accounted for by people of British background who have Irish ancestry, who have decided now to activate that ancestry and to take out Irish citizenship, which of course means European Union citizenship. So that has a very immediate impact on us. It also has an impact for the future in terms of, if there is 20,000 new Irish per year of that different and new background and kind of frame of reference that are part of our cohort, part of our citizenship, that will have implications for the kind of services that are demanded of us in the future, the kind of consular assistance cases that we're required to do, and the nature of our response to them. Brexit also has implications in terms of our own capacity to deliver services and how that will change. Up until now, we've had a very strong relationship with the British Foreign Office, and it's been certainly a good partner to us and an institution that we could rely upon to help Irish citizens overseas. There was a double lock in a sense because of the special relationship with Britain and also our common European Union membership. That will change in ways that we're not yet 100% clear on, but certainly it will have implications for us. There are also changes happening in relation to the European Union itself, and ironically, as Britain leaves, the European Union is establishing much more tight and rule-based mechanisms for helping each other's citizens and mutual assistance in relation to citizens. So all of that suggests that we have to do more in the future. We may have to do more with the same resources or perhaps even less resources. We'll certainly have to do it smarter. One of the ways that we can achieve that is through innovation in, I suppose, what would be the conventional sense or understanding of the meaning of the word in terms of technological and process innovation. And we are certainly a division, I think, that has embraced that over the years. We have moved more and more to online services. You can apply for that foreign birth registration online. You can apply for your letter of freedom to marry online. We are moving more and more in the direction of online services in relation to legalization and authentication services and other services. We launched last year our Minister Flanagan launched on our behalf last year, a new smartphone app, TravelWise. You'll find some material about it in the communications handbook that was distributed yesterday, and there are copies of upstairs. I'd encourage all of you to download it and keep it on your phones and use it if you're travelling. It gives you real-time access to up-to-date, accurate, reliable travel advice and information for 200 countries around the world, contact details for our network of embassies and consulates, and very valuable information on thematic issues and the capacity for us to contact you immediately and on that platform in the event of a crisis or an emergency. We're also relying internally more and more on innovation in terms of e-learning, better internal communications, collaborative knowledge and information sharing platforms, and other ways to try and make sure that our services continue to be fit for purpose. But another way in which we, I think, must respond to the challenges is through better partnership and collaboration. We can't do this on our own. I think there's a realization, and there was a lot of touching upon this yesterday, that along with yourselves, who, as Anne said, are frontline organisations out there responding to the needs of Irish citizens overseas, we're also out there as frontline service providers through our 73 embassies and consulates around the world, through our 98 honorary consuls who work with those embassies and consulates around the world, providing those services to Irish people. Here in Dublin, we collaborate closely in relation to our consular work with the Guards, with the HSE, with the Defence Forces, with TUSLA, with other institutions that can help us and provide expert advice that we need. But I think a really important area which is already being developed but can develop further is our relationship with yourselves, with civil society organisations who are assisting and working with Irish communities around the world. And there are a variety of ways in which we can do that. We already have a very close relationship with the Irish Commission for Prisoners Overseas and other organisations in relation to the very special needs and the special interests of Irish people who find themselves in prison, and there are roughly 1,200 of those all around the world. They're a very important constituency of customers and service users from our point of view, but they also, of course, are very important in terms of the civic groups here. Mental health was touched upon yesterday. That is a big growth area in terms of our consular assistance statistics. The real, the numbers of deaths, the numbers of hospitalizations, the numbers of people who are victims of crime, they are all increasing, but the ones that are increasing the most rapidly are cases related to mental health and mental well-being, and cases relating to child welfare and child abduction. So we really do require some specialist partnership, collaboration and help in those areas. I was interested to hear of some of the work that was done in Sydney between organisations there and the consulate in terms of training and development and upskilling. And here at headquarters, we very regularly draw upon and draw in some of the organisations with specialist skills, whether it be in relation to mental health, whether it be in relation to child welfare, in relation to rape and sexual assault, and we're talking now to organisations who have specialist knowledge and understanding of the needs and issues of the traveller community, so that we can learn more and be better able to engage with that community and provide services when they are needed. Another important facet that civil society organisations can bring is their reach and access. We are traditionally based in capitals, whereas you may be based right throughout countries and have networks and branches and organisations that are really based in the community. And as was touched upon yesterday, there are Irish communities are also very, very well connected. Whether it's people who are doing well in business, or people who are very, very well established in politics or other areas of society, and indeed because of historical connections, such as the fact that elites of many countries may have been educated in Irish schools. This can all give us advantages in terms of pursuing our shared interests. And they are shared interests. I mean, we do, as I said, have this shared role in providing services to communities overseas, and those are changing communities. The differentiation that I suppose used to exist between what was regarded as the settled diaspora, people who had emigrated and were living in countries overseas, and maybe the more transient or travelling public, those lines are becoming blurred. We heard Ted Smith yesterday talk about the sojourner Irish, which I thought was an interesting phrase. We heard Colette from Dubai talk about people who doing border runs, really mobile populations. And there are quite obviously people who are coming and going and moving to different countries, so that their capacity maybe to plug into and rely upon the infrastructure and the services available within national systems is not as strong as it is for long-term migrants. They face different challenges, there are different information gaps, and there's therefore maybe more of a need to rely when they run into difficulty on the kind of services that can be provided by ourselves. There are also clear examples of very excellent, I think, cooperation between government and its consulates and civil society organisations when it comes to responding to real crises. The Berkeley tragedy is probably the greatest example of that, where there was a seamless, a natural, a spontaneous and a wonderfully effective partnership between our consulate in San Francisco and the Irish Pastoral Centre there. We saw it when there were forest fires in Canada and communities were being displaced, and again Irish organisations came to the fore and came to the rescue there. And that's increasingly recognised by our embassies and consulates as they prepare contingency plans for crises, and they recognise the role that Irish organisations can play in relation to those. So there's certainly a lot, I think, that we can do and that we can help each other to do. So some questions that I would maybe want to throw out there in a John F. Kennedy style way, because we've obviously talked a lot about the supports that the department can provide to civic organisations to provide their services, but asking not maybe today or for a moment what we can do for you, but what you can do for us. I would certainly welcome any ideas or comments that you might have on our consular services and how they might be improved. I would welcome any comments or ideas from yourselves as to how we can together help to promote a safe travel culture amongst people. Again, to quote a speaker from yesterday who talked about doing homework before you go, that's certainly something we would like to encourage the Irish people to do, whether it's for a holiday, whether it's for a backpacking trip, whether it's even for a short business trip, certainly if it's in terms of longer term emigration. We want people to do their homework so that they can avoid getting into trouble. Are there other ways that we can work together to help people to avoid getting into preventable emergencies? There are a lot of risks and hazards out there. Can we raise awareness of them? Can we help to lobby with other governments or agencies or institutions overseas to overcome difficulties that might be waiting in the long grass as traps or difficulties for Irish people if they knew about them or if they were able to take actions to avoid getting into difficulties with them? Is there more we can do in terms of information sharing? You, as civic organisations, in many cases, are out there, eyes and ears in the community, maybe seeing problems arising much earlier than we might. And are there better ways in which that information flow can improve? And likewise, where there are changes that are coming in our system or from the Irish government point of view, can we communicate those better and keep that two-way information flow and go? And also, can we promote each other's services? We're about to hear about and you have been seeing the online passport service. Obviously, we think it would be great if you could promote that out there. If you could promote the TravelWise app as a really important safety tool and communication platform for Irish people all over the world. And likewise, how can we, at the department headquarters and in our missions overseas, promote the work and the services that you're doing? And how can we collaborate in a practical way to achieve our shared objectives, which is to help Irish people at home and abroad? So I'll leave you with those thoughts. Thank you very much for listening.
That's great, Pat. Thanks very much for a very lively and detailed presentation. There's a lot of questions there and we will come to them. But before we do that, I think we'll take our second speaker and then we'll have about 20 minutes at the end to take questions and comments from the audience. So maybe be thinking about some of the questions that Pat posed there at the end. Just to say our next speaker, I want to introduce Fiona Penollar. Some of you will know Fiona. She served in our consulate in San Francisco, and prior to that she served in the Perm Rep in Brussels. Fiona currently is involved in leading a major reform project in our passport office, and most recently we last month rolled out the online passport service for adult renewals, and we've had a great uptake. So Fiona's going to tell you a little bit about that major innovation in our passport services, and then we'll take a Q&A afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne, and it's quite hard to follow Pat with such an interesting talk, but I will try. This morning I would like to talk to you and take you on a short journey through the recent innovations that the Passport Service has developed and adopted. First of all, though, I'd like to situate it in a context. In 1995, we issued 250,000 passports. In 2015, that had risen to 676,000. 2016 saw a huge increase of over 10% to almost 750,000. And as you'll see here, the forecasts for the coming years, which include on the top in the red there an estimate for the Brexit applications, show an increase of 18% this year. And then over the next 2 years, we are edging above the 900,000 passport mark. So far in 2017, the channels of choice have been Passport Express, which is within Ireland, that's 64%. Northern Irish applications have been about 11%. Great Britain is about 9.5%. Missions, which I suppose are the other embassies, the ONCONs, etc. around the world, are 6%. The online channel, which as Anne mentioned, has been running now for just over a month, has already accounted for 5% of our applications this year. And then the counters in Dublin and Cork, 4%. I thought this slide might be of interest. The highest volume missions, as I say, not including the United Kingdom, are New York, Canberra, San Fran, Sydney and Ottawa. I can already see out of the corner of my eye Denise going, where's Auckland? So obviously Auckland is a special, unique and very valuable partner as well. Given the context of this high volume, combined with the changing customer expectations, the increasing need to protect the integrity of the passport has led us to initiate a number of major reforms in recent years. In 2013, the passport book was totally redesigned. The aim was to deliver a book with considerably enhanced security, but that would also have a distinctive Irish identity. In 2015, we launched the passport card, the first passport card that could be used internationally for travel across land, sea and air. In 2016, Minister Flanagan, as Anna talked about, launched a major programme of reform at the cost of 18.6 million over 3 years. And one of the flagship projects of this programme was the online application system, which the Minister launched on the 30th of March this year. I'll now give you a whistle-stop tour of some of the highlights of these different innovations. The new passport, as I say, launched in 2013, and in fact it was awarded Identity Document of the Year in 2014. The focus was primarily on security and integrity, but as I said earlier, doing so with an Irish twist. There are over 50 different security features, but don't worry, I'm not going to go through every single one of them. They're incorporated in a book that aims to reflect Ireland and what it means to be Irish. I have chosen here one page that was specifically, I've chosen it to highlight the importance of the diaspora and how returning to Ireland, even for those not actually born here, can still feel like coming home. Nuala ní Gonal's words are Lauren Gachwine dan Lechna Shalom na Changa Feinig Changa Ahigam. Minister McHugh would be much better at translating it than me. But I think what I suppose the importance and the sense from it is that every corner of the land speaks to us in a language we understand. Nuala ní Golan herself was not born in Ireland, but she felt returning to Kerry was returning home. And that is a very important aspect of being Irish, no matter where you're born, that we wanted to reflect in the passport. The importance of emigrants and immigrants is again represented in the passport by the bird knot, which is on the left-hand side of every image in the book. There are two intertwined trees here that are mutually supportive, and they represent the two traditions on the island. The two birds that I've focused on here, you can see that one of them has a seed in his mouth, and that seed is being dispersed in the same way that the diaspora carry the Irish values and traditions with them. You'll notice as well that the birds face in two different directions, and that represents that the sharing of values and traditions is a two-way process that enriches us all. Some other innovative features include the use of spark on the opening page. You see there it's in the shape of the Brunabonia stone, and spark is normally only used on currency, and in fact it's the central bank here who prints that for us. On the sides of each page of the passport, there are one of 14 different images of the river gods that are seen on the Custom House and some of the Liffey bridges. You'll see the images are in half form, but when you fold them together, they become a full head is revealed. On the bottom left of the passport book pages are symbols from the ancient Celtic alphabet of Ogham. And the ink is used is thermochromic. So you will see the 3 stages of colour changing. As you put even just your thumb on it for a short period of time, it's sufficient to change the colour. Each of the Ogham alphabet symbols represent a tree. For instance, the letter B is associated with the birch tree. So when you put the passport book under UV light, you will see the leaf of the birch tree representing the Ogham on that page, and each page is different. Before I move away from the passport book, I did want to show you one final feature that is my personal favourite. On the top right of each 2-page spread are some musical notes on a stave. If you play the entire tune from beginning to end, it is Aaron Nevian. And furthermore, if you look very, very closely, I'm not sure if you can even see it there, but actually the lines on the stave are not lines at all, but they are the words of Article 2 of the Constitution, which reaffirms the entitlement to Irish citizenship of us all. Maybe I should have gone into 50. No. I'll then move on to the passport card, which we launched in 2015, and again it incorporates many of the same themes that we have in the passport book to make clear that it is in the same family. The most interesting feature on the passport card is the optical security media strip on the back. It's similar to the one that is used on the green card, but it's the US green card, but it's the first time it has been used on a travel document. The strip at the back has an embedded hologram of the citizen as well as their personal details. You'll see on the video here what we are showing is at the bottom of the strip there's the same godheads that I spoke about that you match together on the passport book, but in the middle of those godheads is a map of Ireland. When you shine a laser on that map of Ireland, you actually get what's called a diffracted or reflected image of an Ogham, which again echoes back to the Ogham symbols that we have on the passport book. Since October 2015, over 50,000 cards have issued. Interestingly enough, it's 65% male, 35% female. 66% have been issued to people living in Ireland, 20% to people in the UK, 3% in the US, and 2% in France. So I spoke a little earlier about the context within which we issue passports and how it's changing, no more than Pat was saying about how the consular landscape is changing. Customers rightly have an expectation of a speedy, trackable service wherever in the world they are. And these principles of customer first, as well as one service across the globe and protecting the integrity of the passport, are fundamental principles of the reform programme that Minister Flanagan launched late 2015. There are in fact 26 projects as part of this programme which involve a fundamental change of the passport service technology and business processes. We've introduced web chat, we've improved our tracker service, we've strengthened our ETC process, we have improved our facial recognition systems, but to name a few. However, the most visible project that Anne was talking about at the start of this is the online application process. It's open to all adults worldwide who wish to renew their passport. All that an applicant requires is a digital photo. It can be taken at a pharmacy, it can be taken by a photographer. In Ireland, at the moment, you can take it in a PhotoMe booth, and we would hope to extend that. Definitely UK, Europe, and we will try and expand it even further. Someone can upload a photo from their gallery. Then the only other things they need are the details of their previous passport, unless they're lost or stolen. They need their credit card, of course, and an email address. My colleagues will be outside. You might have seen a stand as you came in, and they will be there after this talk, after our questions, etc., and they'll be able to show a demo of exactly how the process works. We, in fact, even have a photo area that if you want to take some photos, it has the correct lighting, the white background, which can be a challenge to find, And we're very happy to answer questions outside there or here. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Fiona. I think you get a sense from the intricacies of the passport design, the thought that's gone into it, and the pride that we take in it. It's not just a travel document, it's also a really beautiful work of art. So I certainly wasn't aware of all those intricacies, before I took on this role, and, I've been fascinated by it. So thank you for that. I think we've had two very lively discussions there, and a lot of information. So I'm going to throw it now open to the floor. We have approximately 20 minutes for questions or comments. So I think we have a roving mic as well. So if anyone would like to just put up their hand, and I just would ask you to give your name, just introduce yourself and let us know where you're working. Thank you very much. Have we a roving mic? Sorry, just one moment. No roving mic. Can somebody maybe down the back there just see if we can get one? Apologies now, we'll just hold it for a second. Great, yeah. I suppose that the common message and the theme is that, the demand for our services has risen on both the consular side significantly and also on the passport service. And despite that, we've managed to deliver enhancements in customer service. So I think it's full credit to our teams working in both the passport and consular offices that they've managed to do that. Okay, I think we have the roving mic now. Thank you very much.
Morning. Paul Lynch from Paris in France. Just a question about the passport card, which I have, and I find it really handy for travelling back and forward. Is there any reason why the number on the card is different to the passport? That's the first question. And secondly, when we renew a passport, the card is linked to the passport, the expiry is the same date, yeah? So the number is different. I'm just curious why that is. And secondly, when we renew a passport, again, we get a different number. Is there any reason why we just don't keep the same number like a PPSN, for example? Like after memorising your passport number, you have to start again 10 years later. It's quite difficult.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Paul. I think we have another couple of questions I'll just take and then we'll respond. There's a lady up the front here maybe, and Senator over there. Thank you.
Siobhan Gorman from Sandwell Irish Society in the West Midlands in the UK. I must say both presentations that we've heard this morning have been so absolutely fantastic and very, very informative, and just gave us a real flavour of what's going on in the background that we sometimes don't know about. But I wanted to ask Fiona, the presentation and the explanation about the work of art that the passport is there any possibility, is it online or anything? All of the information about the things that you've explained. If it isn't, it would be fascinating to have that, because I know with a lot of the older Irish people that I work with, it could make for 2 sessions over a nice cup of coffee, getting them out of the house. It's a fascinating insight into it. We look at it as a document to get us from A to B, but the work that's gone into it and the creativity around it, we should be so proud of. So I'd love to have some information, Fiona, if and we can make a couple of our club airing sessions around it. I know they'd love to hear it. It's awesome. It was awesome to listen to it. So thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you for the comment. I think there's Senator,
Good morning, Senator Trevor O'Clougherty, Sinn Féin spokesperson for the diaspora. Thanks for a really interesting presentation. It just struck me when I was listening to Fiona there that we have the problem with the US, the undocumented in the US, and renewal of driver's licenses. So I'm just wondering, could Minister McHugh hire Fiona to put in place an online system so that those people in the US who can't upgrade, and I'm quite serious actually, can we sort out the problem with people who are trying to upgrade their driver's licenses who are undocumented in the US, who at the moment have to come home to try and do that? It seems to me that the technology is obviously there, the wherewithal is there, and it really is, maybe if we could marry the two and try and get that sorted, it would be a great day's work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I think there's one more question to the gentleman down the back there, and then we'll respond. Thank you. Oh, sorry, apologies, I didn't see that lady there. Yeah, sorry, we'll take yours first, and then the gentleman down the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Maura Doolan, Liverpool Irish Centre. Just 2 questions, really. I'm interested in the figures, the disparity between male and female with the passport card, and obviously the data you've gave. Did you break that down? Have you done some analysis with regards to the age profile of the males that are applying? Is it younger males, or is it right across the spectrum? And also, Being somebody, second generation Irish, when my father died from County Meath in Liverpool, we had to bring him home because he wanted to be buried in Ireland. And for us as a family, it was very traumatic trying to move a body from Liverpool to Manchester Airport, from Manchester Airport to Dublin, from Dublin to Limerick at the time. He's been dead 14 years now, God rest him. And it was really horrific. And at that time, we didn't really have the support. And I'm just wondering from your department, is that the sort of support that you can give? Because in the United Kingdom now, and the population of first generation Irish who may want to, when they pass on, be buried in Ireland, it is going to become more and more a frequent event. And as a family that went through it, and my mum's not very well at the moment, and she wants to be buried in Clare, where she's from, it was horrific. And I'd just like to think, can we share and support? Because it is a very traumatic time for families. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Maura. Just the gentleman down the back, and we'll move on then.
I don't want to preempt the pending debates, but I was just seeing a great connection between the passport technology and the potential for votes for Irish citizens abroad, in terms of maybe getting a citizen's card along the lines of the passport card, as you can be a citizen and not have an Irish passport. Just a thought to consider when we discuss the votes debate later. And to just take up Siobhan's point, that presentation was, I have my passport with me, and I've been looking at it and been fascinated by what was in the presentation. I'd love to have that as a PowerPoint, and like Siobhan, it would so entertain people and enlighten them as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you for that. Sorry, one final question, and I think we'll respond.
Yeah, hi, my name's Sean Fay. I'm a founder of a company called Celtic Turtle. It was a bit to Pat's point about ideas. So I don't know if there's a chance whether in the online application, is there any chance that we could try and capture an optional questionnaire to get an understanding of people with regards to maybe do they intend to visit Ireland? What skills do they do? What do they do as employment? Because a lot of private sector organisations in Ireland would pay a lot of money to get access to that information. So a bit of tip about raising revenue. And the other more serious point is, as a state, we spend 30 million euros a month on recruitment for the HSE, for temporary workers that don't stay here an awful lot. So I'd be very interested in the renewals to find if they were doctors or nurses.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we'll pause for a minute and I'll come back. I know there's a couple more people with questions. I think most of the questions were directed to the Passport Service, so I'll pass over to Fiona first to respond to those, if that's okay.
Perfect, thank you, Anne. I hope I've captured them, so please remind me if I've forgotten a few. Thank you for the recruitment for me. I appreciate that. I do already work for Minister McHugh, but yes, if I'm directed somewhere else, no problem. We do work very closely with the RSA, with the Department of Social Protection, with many other organisations within Ireland to share the information, and the different innovations we are coming up with. So definitely it will be a matter of discussion with the RSA. For instance, the capturing of the photos is something they're very interested in, to see how they could do that. So yes, it definitely is part, and it's a very important, it's what Pat was saying earlier about that whole collaboration, and it's something we're very involved in. Paul's question then regarding the passport card and the number. So they are two separate documents, and hence they have two separate numbers. The primary reason or the primary advantage to someone not having them linked is if you lost your passport book, your passport card is still valid for travel. The passport book number will be notified to Interpol, and that will not be able to be used for travel in future. However, your passport card will. The passport book and card are linked insofar as the expiry date if you had less than 5 years on your passport book. However, the card's validity is only 5 years long, and the reason someone was asking me that earlier was literally because you'll notice it with your credit card, or maybe it's just my credit card that I use it so much, but it does wear off, the numbers wear off. So there's a 5 years validity on a passport card, whereas a book, because it does have that cover protecting it. So that's the reason for the difference between the two. So I hope that makes sense. The security features, and thank you so much for the interest you have expressed in the book. in some ways it's my third child, that book, so it's wonderful to hear those really positive feedback on it. It's something that we did put an awful lot of work and heart and soul went into it. We have a wonderful passport designer whose wife did almost divorce him because, you know, he'd be sitting there watching telly 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and she's like, "You're not watching that at all, are you? You're thinking about that passport book design." And it was so true. That is exactly what happened. So it is something we're very proud of. In fact, the companies are primarily Irish companies. There is DLRS from Bray, HID based in Spiddle, Absolute Graphics, also another Bray company, who have all worked together, and they have continued on now and got some business internationally on the back of it. So it is something we're very proud of. We did have a presentation on a USB key. So I don't have them with me today, but if you'd like to drop me an email or just leave your email address, even with the guys who are out at the stand, I'll be able to send something over. It's probably best just to post it, just because of the amount of images on it. It would be hard to send. We also have a couple of little booklets with some of the security features, so anyone who would have an interest, I'm more than happy to share. As I say, it's like showing the photos of your child, so please, please let me know. I think the other question was the passport card and the division between male and female. It's really interesting. I find it fascinating. Interestingly, the predominant age profile of the male are in 40 to 50 age group. We did expect that there would be kind of the typical businessman who would apply, but we thought it would be just one of a group, whereas it is actually the predominant age. We are looking at more targeted advertising towards students, because we could see that age group carry their passport book with them when they're going out, and then a passport book falls out of your pocket, etc., etc. So we are looking and working with student organisations, etc., to promote that. But it's a very interesting. One could say it's boys and toys, but I didn't. I think they were all the questions.
Yeah, I think
I hope
there was
so.
another question from Maura, just in relation to the repatriation of remains, Pat. Maybe you could.
Sure, yeah. No, I mean, I'm very sorry to hear that Maura had such a bad experience. Losing a loved one, obviously, is a terrible experience. But when, you know, that's compounded by the stress and the anxiety involved in dealing with those kind of formalities, it really is a terrible thing. And that is very much, you know, the top priority in terms of the kind of cases that we deal with worldwide in terms of consular assistance. We have, as I said, about 3,000 serious consular cases each year. In 2016, I think around 250 were deaths overseas, where ourselves and the relevant missions would have assisted with repatriation formalities, and that, you know, that includes the different steps in the process. Obviously, you know, where there might be identification involved, there would certainly be, you know, issues involved with death certificates, sometimes post-mortems, and, you know, it's advice and support and information along the way. We know, and our embassies know, the systems and the formalities and the bureaucratic requirements in different countries can assist and advise in terms of getting death certificates, in terms of the formalities and the paperwork that's needed, in terms of recommendations for undertakers and funeral directors and so forth. So that's certainly something, you know, in the UK also, that our embassy in London is able to do, the consulate in Edinburgh, or ourselves in Dublin. And as I said, I'm sorry you had a bad experience, and hopefully there, you know, that isn't a story that happens too often, I hope. There was a reference or two to information and capture of information and occupations and so forth. I mean, I know that was kind of said half jokingly, but I mean, I think a point worth making in relation to that is that I think on all sides in the department we are very conscious of and take very seriously our responsibilities and obligations in relation to data protection. And you know, I mentioned earlier the media and consular assistance cases, and very often we come under pressure from the media to talk about consular assistance cases, you know, particularly high-profile ones, and we really do try very hard to hold the line on that. I mean, these are people's private affairs, they're confidential matters, and we have legal obligations to basically to capture and record and maintain and keep the minimum information necessary to do our work. And then to dispose of that information as soon as possible afterwards, and not to share it with a third party unless we have authorization to do so. So I don't think we'll ever make millions out of selling our information on to private or commercial operations, and we wouldn't want to either, I think, on any side of the house.
That's great. Thanks, Pat. I think there was another question here, a gentleman near the front. Yeah, it was a few more questions. Okay, we're actually tight on time, but what we'll do is we'll take as many as we can and respond. I'll extend it for another 10 minutes, if that's okay. Okay, thank you.
Jody Gannon, the Vice President of the Irish Business Network in Germany. And I have a real question here, because actually I was caught short last week. Although I'm based in Germany, my family are in Sweden, and my children are Swedish. My 16-year-old girl came to me just a week ago and said, "I'd like to be Irish now, can I get an Irish passport?" And she said, "How do I do it?" And I said, "I have absolutely no idea." I have no idea whatsoever. So I thought, of course, because so many of our members in Germany will have children that have similar experience, I thought it might be something worth to mention.
Okay, we'll come to that. Thank you. I think there's another question here from the gentleman here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Conrad Brown from Irish in Britain. I was born in Ireland. I'm an Irish citizen, and I have 3 children who were born in London. And obviously, Brexit is a huge issue for us. So they've all got Irish citizenship and passports. The question I have really is around spouses. And I was quite surprised that when we inquired about my wife becoming an Irish citizen, that she's not allowed because she hasn't lived in Ireland. I'm just wondering whether you've come across this as an issue, and whether there are implications for consular services. So it's not only about citizenship. So myself, my 3 children are Irish, but my wife is not allowed to be Irish, which seems a bit unfair. In terms of consular services, if we were actually travelling abroad, we talked about the sojourn Irish, we do travel quite a lot. If we got into difficulty in a territory, would my wife be afforded some consular services, or is it a case of let's deal with Conrad and his 3 children, but leave his wife behind? Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think we've got the lady here, Sarah. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. Welcome the development of a consular strategy, and I know we'll be in chatting to you, Pat. My name is Sarah from Crosscare Migrant Project. You're all probably sick of hearing from me. I just have a comment about Irish people deported back to Ireland from abroad. So we would receive referrals from consular assistants and also from the Irish Council of Prisoners Overseas. A challenge that we've found in recent times has been the issuance of emergency travel documents to people who don't have a valid Irish passport, but who are being deported back to Ireland. Often that is the only form of ID that that individual will have on arrival in Ireland. However, they are not, as a matter of standard, given a copy of that. So that means when they arrive here, they have nothing to prove who they are, or even to say that this is actually their name. When we're dealing with cases from embassies or consulates, we always advise that a copy of that would be helpful, either to be given to the individual or to be given to ourselves, so that we can use it to support the person to access emergency supports, particularly if they're coming back with no income and are homeless on return. So just a point to make there. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I think there's a gentleman down the back and a lady, and I think we'll have to stop it there if you don't mind, I think.
I just want to follow up on 2 issues that were raised from the other previous speakers. One issue, it is a big issue regarding the rights of spouses of Irish citizens living abroad. It's a major issue. What we would propose is that it's 2 years residency in Ireland. What we would suggest follow the Portuguese model of 3 years residency abroad. I deal with this issue on a continuous basis. I'm a former director of the European Support Association of the Diplomats in the European Union, 4,000 families I was elected by, and it's a major issue of Irish diplomats who do marry a foreign spouse. It's issues if anything happens to that Irish citizen and their children. Also, it is a big issue for the Irish in Britain now because of the EU status being removed. it's of concern that, that they don't have this right. We also have another issue that is of concern. We have Irish citizens who went to the UK and their lifetime ambition was to retire to Ireland, married to a UK citizen. And what has happened in some cases, and this has been brought to my attention, the Irish citizen died and the remaining spouse, who was not an Irish citizen, have concerns coming to Ireland. We have to recognise the status of a deceased spouse married to an Irish citizen, and they can no longer qualify for an Irish passport as well. An issue of an identity card, a citizen's card, arose. This is going to come into the context not only of Brexit but voting rights. We do need a third-tier identity card. In parallel with the French system, the identity card in France is first and the most important document before the passport. We need an identity card for the citizens of Northern Ireland. We also need an identity card to comply with future terms of European Union and Brexit requirements. And we need it for probably identity and security issues as well in the coming years. This has to be addressed at the highest level, at political level.
Okay, thank you for that comment. And the lady in front.
Valerie Gertler-Doyle, I'm president of the Irish Business Network in Switzerland. Just like to say a huge congratulations to the Passport Office. You have no idea how much simpler this has made people's lives. Just 2 years ago, my daughter needed to renew her Swiss and her Irish passport. Swiss one was done in 5 days. The Irish one went 8, 9 weeks. It's bureaucratic. You had to find a physician to sign it off or a solicitor. So this is a huge step forward. What I would like to ask, as for the Irish Business Network, is can you put this presentation on a stick or something for us and give it to us? Because the story behind it is really lovely, and I would love to take that to one of our events. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a very positive note to finish on, so thank you for that, Valerie. I'll throw it back to Fiona. Certainly, it's very heartening to hear the congratulations and the praise for the new passport book, and I think we'll look at putting that presentation or some online. I think that'll be the easiest way to access it. I'll pass over to Fiona now.
Thank you, and yes, definitely we will. There were a couple of questions there regarding a child and getting a passport. So I suppose while the Department of Justice really have set the citizenship rules in the Passport Office and in Consular, depending on the area of citizenship, we do enact a number of those rules. So just on a really basic level, for someone obviously born in Ireland, they are an Irish citizen. Someone whose parent was born in Ireland, and I think that might be the question that was coming there, is that they are automatically an Irish citizen. So they can apply for a passport. If it is a grandparent born in Ireland, then it's what Pat was talking about earlier, which is, the grandparent rule, the FBR. So it just really depends how you fit into the citizenship. But it's no problem if someone wants to talk about specific cases. We'll be out there to have a quick chat afterwards.
I think actually that might be a very good idea if we say that Fiona and Pat will answer individual questions and queries over coffee, because we have about 20 minutes, half an hour for coffee, and I think that might be the best way to deal with individual queries. Would that be okay? Yeah. Were there any final comments that you wanted to make, Pat, just in relation to anything there?
No, just on that, I mean, it's worth bearing in mind that all of the different embassies and consulates around the world have their own websites, and they have information about passport and citizenship entitlement on the websites, which is good. And worth visiting. Sarah mentioned deportation. I think that's really interesting. I hadn't been aware of that. I think I'll certainly take note of that, and I think that should be. We'll follow up on that. And the issue of spouses, certainly in relation in a crisis situation or where there's an evacuation or assisted departure involved, you can absolutely rest assured that the Irish government won't be turning away spouses or breaking up families. We keep families together, and we provide assistance to spouses or to non-Irish members of families the same as we would for Irish people. But in certain circumstances, individual cases, there are rules applied by the host countries. And if, for example, somebody has dual nationality, say they're Irish and Libyan, for example, or Irish and Venezuelan, for example, if that person is in Venezuela, then the Venezuelan authorities will only recognize them as Venezuelan and won't allow the Irish authorities to have any locus standi in relation to that case. So that limits the extent to which we can provide consular assistance for people in some circumstances in countries overseas. In relation to Britain and British citizens, there is, of course, the common travel area. That remains in effect. That won't be changed by Brexit, and that will continue to protect certain rights of movement and residence for Irish people and British people coming to Ireland. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Pat. I hope that's provided some reassurance, and you can take it that we always have a very compassionate approach, to dealing with our consular cases.
Sorry, just fine. On the case of citizenship for spouses, my own wife is non-Irish, so kind of been through that, and Fiona's spouse is also non-Irish. That law was changed in the 1990s. It's obviously a political legislative matter if that's going to be changed. The Department of Justice, as Fiona said, has lead responsibility for legislation on citizenship, but we can take a note of that, and I'm sure the political colleagues in the room have taken a note of that, and we'll consider that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's been a great discussion. Thank you for the positive feedback. I'm just anxious to wrap up on time because, we have a big session on voting rights coming up next. So you've time now for coffee, and as Fiona said, there's a demonstration down the back in terms of the online passport applications, and we're happy to answer any individual questions. So thank you very much.